Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe for more educational English videos like this one. The year everything changed. Hello, my name is Sarah, and in this recording, I'd like to share a story about a year that completely changed my life. It wasn't something I planned, and to be honest, at the beginning, I didn't even realize how important it would become. But looking back now, I can clearly see that this period helped me grow in ways I never expected. It all started when I lost my job. I had been working at a marketing company for almost 5 years. The job was stable, the salary was decent, and I had a good relationship with my colleagues. However, the company started having financial problems, and one day, our manager called a meeting and told us that several people would have to leave. Unfortunately, I was one of them. At first, I felt shocked and disappointed. I didn't know what to do next. For the first few weeks, I spent most of my time at home, sending job applications and waiting for replies. Every morning, I checked my email, hoping to see good news, but most of the time, there was nothing. Sometimes I received rejection messages, which made me feel even worse. After about a month, I started to feel frustrated. I realized that just waiting for a job wasn't enough. I needed to do something different. So, I decided to use this time to improve myself. I began taking online courses to learn new skills, especially in digital marketing and data analysis. At first, it was difficult to stay motivated, but slowly, I got used to studying again. Around the same time, I also started volunteering at a local community center. They needed help organizing events and managing their social media accounts. I thought it would be a good opportunity to gain experience and meet new people. And it really was. I met individuals from different backgrounds, and listening to their stories gave me a new perspective on life. One of the most interesting things that happened during this period was meeting a woman named Linda. She was running a small online business, selling handmade products. She needed help with her website and marketing strategy, so I offered to help her as a volunteer. We worked together for several weeks, and during that time, I learned a lot about running a small business. Gradually, things started to improve. I felt more confident, more active, and more hopeful about the future. Even though I still didn't have a full-time job, I no longer felt stuck. Instead, I felt like I was moving forward, step by step. Then, something unexpected happened. Linda's business began to grow, and she asked me if I would like to work with her part-time. I accepted the offer immediately. It wasn't a high-paying job, but it was a great opportunity to gain real experience and apply what I had learned. As time went on, I continued working with Linda while still applying for other jobs. But interestingly, my priorities started to change. I realized that I didn't necessarily want to go back to a traditional office job. I enjoyed the flexibility of working remotely and being involved in a smaller, more creative environment. Eventually, after several months, I made a decision. Instead of continuing to search for a corporate job, I decided to become a freelancer. I started offering digital marketing services to small businesses. At first, it was challenging to find clients, but thanks to my experience and the people I had met, I slowly built a network. Today, I can say that losing my job was actually a turning point in my life. It forced me to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. Of course, it wasn't easy. There were moments when I felt uncertain, stressed, and even afraid. But those challenges helped me become stronger and more independent. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that sometimes unexpected changes can lead to new opportunities. Even when things seem negative at first, they might open doors that you didn't even know existed. So, if you're going through a difficult time right now, try to stay patient and open-minded. You never know where life might take you.
A journey without a plan. Hey everyone, my name is Alex, and today I'm going to tell you about a journey I took last year. It wasn't a typical holiday, and it definitely didn't go the way I expected. In fact, I didn't even have a clear plan when I started. But somehow, it turned into one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. It all began after a very stressful period at work. For months, I had been working long hours, dealing with tight deadlines, and trying to manage too many responsibilities at the same time. I felt constantly tired, and even on weekends, I couldn't really relax. My mind was always busy thinking about work. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, I realized that I needed a break. Not just a short vacation, but something more serious. I wanted to disconnect completely and give myself time to think. So, without overthinking too much, I decided to take a month off and travel. At first, I thought about planning everything carefully, booking hotels, creating a detailed schedule, and deciding exactly where to go. But then I changed my mind. I wanted this trip to be different. I wanted some freedom and unpredictability. So, I only booked my first destination and left the rest open. My journey started in a small town in the mountains. The air was fresh, the streets were quiet, and everything felt slower compared to the city. On my first day, I simply walked around, explored the area, and enjoyed the silence. It felt strange at first because I wasn't used to doing nothing, but after a while, I started to enjoy it. A few days later, I met a group of travelers at a local cafe. They were from different countries, and each of them had their own story. We started talking, and eventually, we decided to travel together for a few days. This was completely unexpected, but it made the experience much more interesting. We visited nearby villages, tried local food, and even went hiking together. One day, we got lost in the mountains because we took the wrong path. At first, it was a bit stressful, but then we started laughing about it. In the end, we found our way back, and it became one of the funniest memories of the trip. After about a week, we all went in different directions. I continued my journey alone, but I didn't feel lonely. In fact, I started to enjoy traveling by myself. I had complete freedom to decide where to go, what to do, and how to spend my time. During the following weeks, I visited several places, some big cities, some small towns. In each place, I tried to experience the local culture. I talked to people, visited markets, and spent time in cafes just observing daily life. I realized that you can learn a lot simply by watching and listening. One of the most memorable moments happened in a coastal town. I met an old man who owned a small bookstore. We started talking, and he told me stories about his life, his travels, and the changes he had seen over the years. He said something that really stayed with me. Life is not about having a perfect plan. It's about being open to what happens. That sentence made me think a lot. Before this trip, I always tried to control everything. I wanted everything to be organized and predictable. But during this journey, I learned that uncertainty can also be beautiful. Of course, not everything was perfect. There were moments when I felt tired, confused, or even a little lost. Sometimes, I had trouble finding a place to stay, or I missed my friends and family. But these challenges were also part of the experience. They taught me patience and problem-solving. By the time I returned home, I felt like a different person. I was calmer, more confident, and more aware of what I really wanted in life. I didn't suddenly have all the answers, but I felt more comfortable with uncertainty. Since then, I've tried to keep that mindset in my daily life. I still plan things, of course, but I also try to stay flexible and open-minded. Because sometimes, the best experiences happen when you least expect them. So, if you ever have the chance to do something similar, even for a short time, I would definitely recommend it. You don't have to travel far or for a long time. The important thing is to step out of your routine and allow yourself to experience something new.
From a simple idea to a big change. Hello, this is Michael speaking. And today I want to tell you about a project that started as a very small idea but eventually became something much bigger than I ever imagined. It's a story about creativity, patience, and how small steps can lead to big results over time. A few years ago, I was living a very routine life. I worked in an office, followed the same schedule every day, and didn't really try anything new. My weekdays were almost identical. Wake up, go to work, come back home, eat dinner, and go to sleep. Weekends were a bit more relaxed, but even then, I often felt bored or unmotivated. One evening, while I was scrolling through social media, I saw a video of someone building simple furniture from recycled materials. It wasn't anything professional or expensive, just creative and practical. For some reason, that video caught my attention. I had never built anything in my life, but I thought, maybe I could try something like this. The next day, I went out and bought a few basic tools and some cheap materials. I didn't have a clear plan, and honestly, I didn't even know where to start. My first project was a small wooden shelf. It took me several hours, and the result was far from perfect. The shelf was a bit uneven, and the paint didn't look very good. But despite all that, I felt surprisingly proud of it. After that, I decided to continue. Every weekend, I started working on a new small project. Sometimes it was a table, sometimes a chair, and sometimes just a decorative item. I watched online tutorials, read articles, and slowly improved my skills. Of course, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. There were times when I had to start over because something went wrong. At the same time, I began sharing photos of my work online. At first, only a few friends and family members saw them, but gradually, more people started to notice. Some of them left positive comments while others gave helpful advice. This feedback motivated me to keep going. After a few months, something unexpected happened. A stranger contacted me and asked if I could build a custom piece of furniture for their home. I was surprised and a bit nervous because I didn't feel like a professional, but I decided to accept the challenge. That project was much more difficult than anything I had done before. It required more time, better planning, and greater attention to detail. There were moments when I felt stressed and unsure. However, I worked patiently, step by step, and eventually completed it. When the client saw the final result, they were very happy. That moment gave me a huge boost of confidence. From that point on, things started to grow. I began receiving more requests, and I started taking my work more seriously. I improved my workspace, bought better tools, and learned more advanced techniques. What started as a simple hobby slowly turned into a small business. Of course, balancing this work with my full-time job was not easy. I often felt tired, especially during busy weeks. But at the same time, I felt more alive and motivated than before. I realized that doing something creative gave me energy instead of taking it away. After about a year, I had to make an important decision. My side project was growing, and it required more time and attention. So, I asked myself a difficult question: should I leave my stable job and focus on this new path? It wasn't an easy choice. There was a risk involved, and I had to think carefully about my finances and future. I talked to my family and friends, and I also made a detailed plan. In the end, I decided to take the risk. Today, I work full-time on my own projects. I design and build furniture, collaborate with clients, and even teach beginners who want to learn. My life is still busy, but it feels more meaningful. Every day is different, and I continue to learn new things. Looking back, it's hard to believe that everything started with one simple idea and a short video. It taught me that you don't need a perfect plan to begin. Sometimes all you need is curiosity and the courage to try. If you have something you've always wanted to do, even if it seems small or unimportant, I would encourage you to start. You never know where it might lead. Even if it doesn't become something big, the experience itself can change you in a positive way. And remember, progress takes time. It's normal to make mistakes and feel uncertain. What matters is that you keep going, step by step.
The decision that took me abroad. Hello, my name is Emma, and today I want to share a story about one of the most difficult but rewarding decisions I've ever made. A few years ago, decided to move to another country alone. It wasn't something I had always planned, and to be honest, I was quite afraid at the beginning. But in the end, it became one of the most important experiences of my life. At that time, I was living in my hometown and working as a receptionist in a small hotel. The job was fine, and my life was comfortable. I had my family nearby, a few close friends, and a daily routine that felt safe. However, after a while, I started to feel like something was missing. I couldn't exactly explain what it was, but I felt stuck. Every day felt the same. I would wake up, go to work, deal with guests, answer phone calls, and then go back home. There was nothing particularly wrong with my life, but there was also nothing exciting or challenging. I began to wonder if I was capable of doing something more. One evening, while I was talking to a friend, she told me about her experience studying abroad. She described how she met new people, learned a new language, and discovered a completely different culture. Listening to her made me feel both excited and nervous. For the first time, I seriously thought about leaving my comfort zone. At first, it was just an idea. I didn't take any action. I kept thinking about all the risks and difficulties. What if I couldn't find a job? What if I felt lonely? What if I failed? These questions made me hesitate. But over time, the idea didn't disappear. In fact, it became stronger. I started doing some research in my free time. I looked at different countries, job opportunities, and visa requirements. The more I learned, the more realistic it seemed. After a few months, I finally made a decision. I chose a country, prepared my documents, and started applying for jobs. The process was not easy. There were a lot of forms to complete, emails to send, and interviews to attend. Sometimes, I felt overwhelmed and tired. Eventually, I received a job offer from a small company. It wasn't a perfect job, but it was a good starting point. I accepted the offer, and a few weeks later, I packed my bags and left everything behind. The first few weeks in the new country were very challenging. Everything was different: the language, the culture, the food, and even the way people communicated. Sometimes, I didn't understand what people were saying, and that made me feel embarrassed. I also missed my family and friends a lot. There were moments when I asked myself if I had made a mistake. Simple tasks, like going to the supermarket or using public transportation, felt difficult at first. I had to learn everything from the beginning. However, little by little, things started to improve. I began to understand the language better, and I became more confident when speaking. I also started to make new friends, both local and international. They helped me feel less alone. At work, I also improved. In the beginning, I made small mistakes, but my colleagues were patient and supportive. Over time, I learned how to do my job more efficiently, and I felt more comfortable in the workplace. One of the best parts of this experience was discovering a new culture. I tried different foods, visited new places, and learned about traditions that were completely unfamiliar to me. It opened my mind and helped me see the world from a different perspective. After about a year, I realized how much I had changed. I was more independent, more confident, and more open to new experiences. Things that once seemed difficult were now part of my daily life. Looking back, I can say that moving abroad was not easy, but it was definitely worth it. It taught me that growth often comes from discomfort. When you challenge yourself and step into the unknown, you learn things that you could never learn by staying in the same place. If you are thinking about making a big change in your life, my advice is simple. Don't let fear stop you. Of course, it's important to be careful and prepared, but sometimes, you just need to take that first step. Because in the end, the biggest regrets are often not the things we did, but the things we didn't do.